Hi there, my name's Mr. Owen and I'm the principal of Longsands Academy. Welcome to the first ever recorded information evening for parents for students in Year 11. Whilst we would of course wanted to have invited you into the Academy, I hope you find this a fitting substitute. The purpose of the Year 11 Parents Information Evening at Longsands has always been traditionally to give some key information, to give some guidance and some advice to help you help your child make the most of this important time of their education. Joining us will be some colleagues who will be working closely with this year group. They are Miss Saunders, Head of Year 11, Mrs. Martindale, who leads on our careers programme. We've got Mr. Merson, Mr. Martin and Miss Fox, who lead our Maths, Science and English department. And you'll also hear from Mrs. Carpenter, our exams manager, and Mr. Taylor, our director of sixth form. I'd like to begin my brief presentation by congratulating the year group on their approach to remote learning during the lockdown period. It was great to see such high levels of engagement with work throughout this time, and particularly during the face-to-face English, Maths and Science sessions we were able to provide in the summer. I'd like to thank you, parents and carers, for your support during this time too. Quite frankly, we know how difficult it must have been for you all, and we are really sympathetic with the challenges that this brought. So, quite disbelievingly, I'm sure, your child is embarking on their final year of GCSE studies. Of course, we recognise that students haven't physically been on site on a consistent basis since March. And so, for the next few weeks, we need to make them feel confident, assured, make sure they feel safe around the academy. But in time, also, we want to ensure that they continue to retain a firm focus on completing their academic standards to the best of their ability. We'll also work hard, and I'm sure you'll get a sense of this in this recording, to support students with the processes of applying for their post-16 destinations. Despite everything, this is an exciting and we hope a fulfilling and successful year ahead. We look forward to working with you.
Hello. Firstly, please allow me to introduce myself. I am Miss Saunders, Head of Year 11, and I'm very excited to be supporting your child throughout this academic year. We are in a very, very unique year, not only with what has gone on over the last couple of months, but also the transition from Year 10 into Year 11. Students are now reaching the final hurdle as they prepare for their GCSE exams, and there is no doubt about it that this is a very important year ahead. Students have lost a significant amount of learning time in lessons, and therefore it is imperative that we work and communicate with each other to ensure the students reach their full potential. One of the most effective things parents can do to ensure good GCSE results for their children is to encourage a high level of attendance. The Department for Education report a strong link between absence and attainment in students' GCSE results, and therefore we must aim to keep students' attendance consistently high throughout the year. Looking at this graph, students with a high percentage of attendance perform best. I stress the importance of your child being in school unless they are obviously extremely unwell. With attendance to lessons being paramount in order for your child to learn the essential content within their subject, it is also important that students are regularly reviewing that content over time. As you can see from this graph, the more students review what they have learnt, the less that is forgotten. A key priority for Year 11 this year is the well-being of students. We will support them not only in their reintegration back into school life, but also with the pressures of the year ahead. Students will have had different experiences over the last couple of months. For some, it may have been incredibly positive, and for others it may have proved more difficult. We have a fantastic pastoral support team who are here to provide your child with support in order for them to be successful in their academic studies. We have myself and Mr. Breakspear in Year 11 and Mr. Milne and Mrs. Cavilla in Year 10, all of whom are working together towards a common goal, of which that is for your child to be successful as they move into what will be their post-16 option. It's a real positive to have the students back in school, and whilst we appreciate your continued support at home, we also need the students to understand the importance of making the most out of their learning time in lessons. Students need to take responsibility for their learning and ensure high levels of engagement and effort in all of their studies, both in and outside of school. As I previously mentioned, students may experience some levels of stress and be nervous during this highly pressured year. Please be mindful of the key indicators for students who are experiencing stress and be advised by some of these coping strategies to help your child control these feelings. I truly believe that preparation is key to enabling your child to deal with the challenges within Year 11. Students need to be organised for lessons, know key dates early on, and be fully aware of what they are learning and will be tested on within each of their subjects. Useful tools for this include familiarising themselves with the curriculum booklet, which is available on the website, and utilising revision checklists for their mocks and final exams. Subject clinics start for Year 11 students on Monday. Please do encourage your child to attend in order for them to get additional support outside of the classroom. And finally, I'd like to draw your attention to some of the key dates coming up for Year 11. We have several progress reviews that will be sent home. We also have a parent consultation evening on Thursday the 10th of December. More information on how this evening will run will be available to you prior to this date. Finally, we have 2 sets of mocks, which I ask you to ensure your child is very well prepared for. With regards to prom, please do be patient with us. We continue to follow the government guidance and will update you when we have a confirmed date. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, then please do not hesitate to contact me.
Hello, my name is Julian Merson. I'm Assistant Principal with responsibility for assessment and moderation. I'm going to talk to you about 3 key websites and their associated areas of focus. Firstly, I'm going to talk to you about the Doddle website. This continues to be used by teachers and students for the setting of homework. Doddle exists as a downloadable app, and as parents, you can set this up to have access to the homework your child is receiving on a daily basis. We encourage you to monitor this work, to talk with your child about the work. It is often very beneficial for students to have opportunities to discuss their work with parents, particularly when it comes to preparing for exams by revising. I certainly remember helping my son with his GCSE and A-level work, and whilst it would be fair to say he was initially an unwilling participant in the process, he certainly came to appreciate the benefits. Secondly, all students have access to the website GCSE Pod. Currently, 99% of current students in years 10 and 11 have accessed this website, and it provides really useful practice for students in all subject areas. For each subject, the learning content is broken down into bite-sized chunks known as pods. These videos can be viewed online or downloaded for viewing elsewhere. This means key topic areas can be practiced over and over and over again. We often talk in education these days about the forgetting curve. in that topics which are taught in class once tend then to be forgotten if they are not revisited at regular intervals thereafter. By using the pod videos on a regular basis, topic content can be refreshed in the memory, and this helps with long-term retention of knowledge, as well as with understanding. Alongside the video pods, GCSE Pod incorporates a number of other useful tools, including quizzes, which help test students on content. As well as being a really useful revision tool, we encourage students to use this site throughout their courses. Many students are already making good independent use of this site, and it is interesting to note that the students who are using the site most regularly are also performing better in tests and in exams. So we feel it does work. Last year, roughly 60,000 pods were downloaded and viewed by Longsands students. We're going to be setting up competitions through the new house system to encourage students to make even more use of this site, and we're working with teachers to explore the best ways of incorporating this site in lessons and for homework. Lastly, as well as with my role as assistant principal, I retain the role of head of maths, and I want to take this opportunity to remind you of another website which is particularly important in mathematics. Students are now very familiar with Hegarty Maths and have been using it extensively during lockdown. It breaks down the maths curriculum into more bite-sized chunks than possibly any other website I know. We will be continuing to set homework from this site, and our curriculum plans are set up to indicate the relevant clip numbers associated with all topic areas so that students can use the site for independent study purposes. Curriculum plans are available for download from the website Curriculum Area in Maths. Additionally, as students approach exams, we will release revision lists detailing the relevant clips to work on both at foundation and higher tier. Hegarty Maths has a number of key revision tools in addition to the videos and quizzes that they set up, such as the Fix Up 5 function and the Memory function. Used regularly, these provide excellent opportunities for spaced repetition learning, again, allowing the sort of practice which allows students to avoid going too far down the forgetting curve. As a teacher, I have always noted differences in outcomes for students measured from key moments in their education. For example, in maths, from mock exams to real exams, some students can add up to 100 raw marks to their scores across the maths papers, whilst others can also add very little. The differences in progress can be attributed to the choices students make, particularly in terms of effort put in. These three websites really do help. Students who utilize them regularly are really making the right choices and are likely to make much better progress. We want to encourage all students to do this as an independent and regular choice as often as possible. As parents, if you would like any help in our use of these websites, or you detect that your child is having difficulties accessing any of them, please don't hesitate to contact me by email at school, or for particular subject areas to make contact with the relevant teacher.
Hello, my name is Miss Fox and I'm the Head of English at Longsands. So I wanted to start with a reminder of the English curriculum and just an update on where we are up to in terms of the course and what students have left to cover. So all students at Longsands sit 2 GCSEs in English, English literature and English language. At present, Shakespeare and poetry are compulsory elements for AQA literature. There will be further clarification and guidance coming out very shortly about the changes to the GCSE and what this means for students at Longsands. We are currently studying the last text they need to cover, Blood Brothers or An Inspector Calls. From December onwards, we will be revising previously taught content only. This means that students will have a chance to revisit, reread, and just go through again any text that they are unfamiliar with, or that they studied in Year 10, or that maybe they had to complete with remote learning in lockdown. So there's ample time for them to have the opportunity to go through any content that they feel less confident on before the final exams. So one of the potential barriers to success in English is being unsure of how to revise. It's really important that students revise and revisit each text regularly throughout the 2-year course. The most important way to revise for literature, and the one revision strategy that will have the most impact, is actually rereading the text after we've finished it in class. So with things like Doddle and GCSE Pod and revision guides, there's lots of things that are sort of supplementary, but actually looking at the text itself should be the backbone of their revision, because every time they look at the text again, and that could just be a page, a chapter, or rereading the whole thing, they deepen and consolidate their understanding of it. Around this, they will be set detailed quizzes on Doddle, and we highly recommend GCSE Pod, which has a vast amount of useful videos on all the significant aspects of each text. It's important that students get into the habit of learning quotations, and that they begin this at the start of Year 11, as the exams have closed book elements. The look, cover, check method is helpful for learning quotations, as is drawing images to help them remember. Teachers will be setting quotation quizzes throughout the year, and pupils will be asked to memorise a few quotations for home learning to help them commit them to memory and to build up a bank of quotations that they can remember and use to help them answer the questions in the exams. Essentially, for literature, the key content that they need to revisit and revise are the characters, the ideas and the plot, and just to make sure that they're really familiar with the text. For the November mock exams in English, they will be doing a language paper 1. Language paper 1 was taught in Year 10. It was part of their Year 10 curriculum content. We are revising it in lessons at the moment and just making sure that students are really familiar with the question types on the paper and what they need to do for each one. They will also do a literature mock, which will be a question on the modern text. This is what we are currently studying in class. Between the curriculum time now and the final exam, as previously mentioned, they will be revisiting and have opportunities to practice all of the different question types that they need for both qualifications. So the best preparation for the November mock exam is for the literature to reread the text, going over again and recapping, rereading parts that they've read in class. Doddle quizzes as home learning tasks to just help with that recall and that memory and that familiarity with the text. GCSE Pod videos on key aspects of the modern text, which will be either Blood Brothers or An Inspector Calls, depending on which class they're in. And attending English Clinic, which is in N111 at 3:10 every Monday after school. This year, we're doing a mini lecture series, so we will publish what the topic will be for the coming Mondays, and students will be able to see what the text or topic will be. So it could be language paper 1 question 3, or a particular character. And if they feel that that is a topic that they feel that they're less familiar with, or that they need some extra support or teaching with, then they can attend that session, and there'll be an opportunity for some Q&A and questioning as well, just to give them an additional opportunity to go through with a teacher that particular topic. So the timetable for the different topics for each lecture will be sent out to Year 11 on Monday, and they can use that to help them inform which clinics will be the most useful for them to attend.
Hello, my name is Mr. Martin. I'm the head of science, and you can see my email there. Please feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions following this presentation or just generally throughout the year. First off, we mentioned the mocks, which are coming up after half term, and are, as always, important, possibly this year more important than previous years. In light of the lockdown situation, we're aware that there will be some students that perhaps have a bit of ground to make up. One thing that we can do to try and reduce the anxiety and stress that they might be feeling is we could move some students from triple science to double science. And that would mean that they would have 33% less content to learn, but they still have the same amount of teaching time. So rather than teaching getting very, very close to the exams, they'll be finished the teaching of the content earlier, they can have more time and lesson to revise, and they'll have less stuff to revise at home independently. So we think that would be a good solution to students, and we'll be using the mock results and analysis and looking closely at that to identify students who we think this would be the best option for. There can be a bit of a preconception that triple science is good and double science is not. That is not the case. There's nothing wrong with doing double science. It is highly recommended if that's the best course for you, and you can get into any A-level institution or sixth form if you do double science. And what we want to do is make sure by switching some students to double science is that option is open for more students. Hypothetically, if a student wants to do triple science and let's say get 3 grade 5s, we think it's a fair assumption to make that if they had less content to revise in the same amount of time, they could get 2 grade 7s. And with those grade 7s, they would meet the requirements to do A-level sciences here, whereas with the 5s they wouldn't. So this is being made in the interest of the students, not to be seen as a punishment. It is for what is best for the students, and we'll use our professional judgment, having looked closely at that data to decide on what is best for the students. Okay, so that's just wanted to let you know that that was the plan for these mock exams. Generally speaking, aside from mock exams, at the end of each unit of teaching, there will be an assessment. So we recommend continuous revision at all times, but when you know you've got an exam coming up, we recommend that becomes more focused and maybe a little bit more intense on that specific topic in the lead up for the exam. We recommend using GCSE Pod and Caboodle, which students will probably be even more familiar with having gone through lockdown. Free Science Lessons Online is also a very good YouTube channel that clearly explains the knowledge that students need to have for different topics in GCSE. We recommend as well to buy our revision guides. You should have had a letter already by now. If you haven't had it by now, it will be coming out shortly. And we're offering you to purchase a revision guide, and we can offer them at half price. We are aware that there may be students that buy, for example, the triple revision guides, and then we say that it's the better option for those students is to go to double. If that's the case, we'll be happy to take the triple books back and replace it with a combined book, and we can refund the difference as long as the books are in good condition. So therefore, don't write the answers into the books themselves, but actually write them onto lined paper. We'd recommend that anyway so that you can reuse them. So that's what's coming out with the revision guides. You'll be told which ones to order when you go to Parent Pay, so order those ones, and if we need to change them, we can change them at a later date if they are kept in good condition. Science clinic is every Thursday. I believe Miss Saunders has published the timetable with the venues and the days. So it's every Thursday. There will be different rooms for biology, chemistry and physics. We've got 2 rooms for each. So there should be plenty of capacity, and we'd like to see as many students there as possible. Physics equations, for the last 2 years the students have had little cards that they kept in their blazers, which is a good way of learning the equations. We're going to evolve that and improve that by asking students to download the 23 equations app. Alright, and that app will be a much more interactive and effective way for students to learn their equations, and that will give them a great head start for physics. We recommend they use that at the very least weekly, but daily would be absolutely superb as well. Caboodle access shouldn't be a problem, as most students will be using that over lockdown, and they've got access to the digital textbooks and to other resources as well. So just to remind you about that. And here you have 6 steps to success. So what we recommend students do in order to make the most of their time with us so they get the best GCSEs possible. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Carpenter, the examinations manager, and I'm sure you've all met me before in one way or another with your 10 exams and so on. I just need to go through a few basics about the mock exams which will be coming up in November. We do aim as far as possible to run the exams in accordance with the JCQ organisation rules, so that students have a good idea what to expect when they actually arrive in the final exams in the summer. Obviously, with social distancing, there will be some adaptation of seating and so on, but we will still be using the sports hall for the exams. I would ask that all students make sure that they have all the equipment they need. So that's spare pens, pencils, maths equipment and calculators, which are needed for business studies, geography, maths, science and a couple of other subjects. We will not be able to lend these items in the exam room. So I ask that all students make sure they are properly equipped so that they are not disadvantaged in the exam. A few other do's and don'ts. Obviously, mobile phones are not allowed. Neither are any electronic equipment. And also now no watches of any description are allowed in the exams hall, because it is increasingly difficult to work out which are electronic, which are analog and so on. So no watches, but bring all the equipment needed ready for the exam. Exams will be in the sports hall. Timetables and seating arrangements will be given closer to the time, and we ask that students follow the information on my next slides, which is to be prepared for the exam, be calm and considerate of others, and make sure the questions are read carefully, because that is often where marks are lost. And similarly, use any extra time available at the end to go back over those questions and maybe enhance the answers or select different answers as required. Also, we need to identify the papers, so the student's name and the teacher's name need to be on the paper. Apart from that, the only other thing that I need to do is to wish most students good luck, but I will add something extra about access arrangements. Access arrangements need to be applied for. They are arranged through the Senko, Mrs. Martin Morales, for extra time, readers, scribes, word processors and prompts. Separate accommodation is only granted under exceptional circumstances, and we do need medical proof for certain illnesses and so on, because we're not just allowed to give extra time on our own say so. So please, if you have any queries about extra time, access arrangements and so on, you may contact me in the first instance, but I will usually pass that on to Mrs. Martin Morales. If you have anything at all, however, about exams that you would like to contact me about, my email address was on the first slide, and I am happy to answer email requests at any time. Thank you.
Hello. The support that we'll be offering Year 11 students this year will help them to investigate their post-16 and 18 options or pathways. We'll be encouraging them to gather information which is impartial, and also to ask for advice and guidance from experts about those pathways. We'll also be encouraging them to broaden their horizons by considering new pathways. So we'll be encouraging them to find out about pathways such as apprenticeships as an alternative to A-levels, and to at least consider these in weighing up their next steps. And also we want them, if they are interested in doing A-levels, to start to look at university as well as a follow-up option to progress their learning. And finally, we want them to make and be able to make realistic choices. So this will mean that they'll need to look at their APS and ensure that that is in line with the choices that they are making. It's important just to spend a moment to go through the main post-16 options which I've listed here. The first one is full-time study in a school. So, for example, they'll stay at the Australia Sydney sixth form and study A-levels. They can study towards a full-time course at college, so for example, Cambridge Regional College, or there are other training providers who also offer full-time courses. So that's option one. Option two is to combine those two things. So they may study towards a qualification part-time and then spend the rest of the time in either paid employment or volunteering. It's important that students make sure that they are studying towards a regulated qualification. And the final option is an apprenticeship, which is a combination of paid employment and then usually 1 day a week to study at a college towards a regulated qualification. There are also some traineeships available, although not in all areas, and a traineeship is a 6-month supported internship to help students who are perhaps not quite ready for the world of work or an apprenticeship, and it will help them to build the skills and confidence that they need in order to apply for an apprenticeship. So the finally then thing to think about is what students should be doing at the moment. The first thing is we're encouraging them to try and establish a clear plan, and to think about what they need to do in order to access the pathway that they want. So whether this involves getting more advice and guidance, it might be that they need to attend open days so that they can compare a certain college course with perhaps an academic route. All of that information you will find on providers' websites. And finally, they should remember that there is one-to-one guidance support available to them from a qualified guidance advisor. And I will write home once we confirm the start date for that guidance advisor. The final thing to say is, in terms of other providers, I will also be writing home shortly to give you details of other providers, so both FE colleges and also other sixth forms. It is very, very important that when students make applications, which they may do so from October onwards, that when they are asked to give a reference or a referee email address, they must use references@australialongsands.org. Again, I'll put this in the letter. It's very important that they don't use a member of staff's email address. It could go into their junk folder, and then that may result in their application being delayed. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to this short presentation about Australia Sixth Form St Neots. My name is Mark Taylor. I'm Director of Sixth Form and have been in post for the last 10 years in this role, and have been at Longsands Academy for 20 years. So I'm well versed in the needs of the 16 to 19 sector, and I hope that at the end of this presentation you will have a little bit more information about what the process is for joining us. This will be quite familiar to Year 11 students because it's a similar presentation to the one that I gave to them remotely in July time during lockdown. Very briefly then, this is important for students and parents just to understand exactly what is on offer. One of the things I'd say about Future is that we have a very good track record of placing students into really high quality post-18 destinations. And in fact, one of the things that we will ask when it comes to your interview for the sixth form will be, what do you intend to do after this, in order to make sure that you are going to choose the correct A-levels and so on. For example, just recently a student wished to do pathology at university, but at that point wasn't aware that you would need to do a 5-year medical degree plus other training in order to do that, and therefore the A-levels that were chosen needed to be chemistry and biology. Just a little bit of context. We have over 350 students. We're looking to grow that as well. They have a dedicated tutor who will see them every day, and they will be more of an academic mentor in reality that will help with aspects of work, of ethos, of organisation. Each year group has a head of year as well, which will give regular assemblies and input into their development. We're very clear that as well as the academic side of things, which we'll talk about in a moment, that we do take our responsibilities for personal development really seriously. So as well as a focus on destinations and ensuring that students have information about applying to university or apprenticeships, we also make sure that they're ready to take their place as active citizens in modern Britain. So our programme will cover all aspects, from risk-taking behaviour to information about financial management. There's some information about survival cookery as well, really to equip them for their entry into full adult life. We do have our own building there, which is kitted out for sixth form students, and no younger students are able to go in there, so it really is their space. As you will know, having lived through this with Year 11 students, this summer has been turbulent in terms of the awarding of final grades. I'm not going to dwell on what that was like. We've left that behind now. It's a difficult time. But out of that, our Year 13 students did really well. So we have placed every single student onto a course at university, a job, or an apprenticeship that they want to do, and we're really pleased with that. We had a record number of students that gained entry to Oxford or Cambridge, or indeed Russell Group universities, the so-called top universities, a number of medics and dentists this year, and we also had some really good solid results from students who have ended up in apprenticeships in some pretty impressive companies as well. So it was a great year despite the turbulence, and it just reminded me that our students and our staff really do work hard to make sure that they get the best out of each other. This is a timeline. Now obviously running through this in the background is the shadow of COVID and the alterations or restrictions that they might bring. So some of this will be provisional, some of it we've already made some decisions. So the open evening, which is traditionally a busy evening of coming in and touring around, that will be a virtual evening, just as this one is for Year 11 So there will be a series of presentations, information, a prospectus will come out at this time as well, giving you hopefully everything that you would need in order to make an informed choice about sixth form. During that time, after that time, I will always be available, as will my team. If a student wishes to speak to us, simply email or go to Mrs. Jordan or their head of year in Key Stage 4. We can arrange an appointment. Then things go quiet for a bit because students' minds are occupied with their mock exams. After Christmas in the new year, we begin to ask the question again, what are you going to do post 16? So we have a deadline for applications. That system, the application system, will be explained nearer the time. It's likely that this will be electronic. Then we start our interviews. Traditionally, these have been face-to-face. We will just check the guidance on whether that's appropriate or whether those interviews are done by phone or another digital way. But there will be a series of interviews, a chance for students to sound out, as I was saying earlier about pathology and so on, to really make sure that they've chosen the right combination at A level. And then finally, we plan to run a transition day. It was cancelled this year during lockdown. And this is a taster event where there's a whole day, students are in, seeing their lessons and so on. If this is not able to go ahead due to coronavirus, then we will have, at the very least, a run of individual phone calls that are made to each student just to check on their progress and how they are doing in terms of making their final choices. So just a brief thing here about standards, if you like, entry criteria. This is unlikely to change. This is from last year's prospectus. The new prospectus will be out during the open evening event. But in simple terms, we have grouped subjects according to national difficulty, and we look at the average point score of each student. So roughly speaking, in the blue group, mixture of 4s and 5s at GCSE, yellow is 5s and 6s, and purple is 6s and 7s. And this is just to ensure that statistically students have the best chance of achieving. That's really all from me this evening. We would love to work with your sons and daughters, both when they come to us, but in that interim period, which can be quite confusing. So if they ever need anything, or indeed you want to contact the sixth form, we have our own website and the contact details are on there. Many thanks.